I see me. Hey, everybody. We're here. This thing likes to get all caca. That's what happens with buttons. Buttons mess me up. Ian says hello. Ah, surprisingly nice day today.
Yes, it is. You're on the coast anyway.
Yep. Please feel encouraged to participate. 2 more people have shown up. We'll get going pretty quick.
I seem to have misplaced my armband.
Uh-oh, we better find it.
Yeah.
You're going to need it.
Today.
Yeah, you're going to need that.
I should get healed up. Stupid thing.
It would be good.
So
we wait for everyone to come in the room and sit down and
say hello.
And say, hey, we're here. Says there's 3 people.
You, me, and my shadow.
Sorry. Okay, Shadow, make yourself known.
Sorry, not putting anybody on the spot.
Yeah. Well, we tried giving our bunny rabbit something new to eat. Got him some cilantro. He likes it. He likes it a lot. In fact, we gave him some cilantro with his favorite lettuce, and he ate the cilantro first. So, Aaron says hello. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
Yeah, so it was kind of cool. I didn't find any parsley that was reasonably priced. I'm going to have to grow some in my garden. SL says hi, all. Hi, SL. Hope everybody is doing okay this week.
I'm feeling better today. I was feeling kind of off yesterday.
Yeah, I never did figure out exactly why. Maybe too many onions.
Maybe too many onions, yeah.
Yeah, could be. We get some hearts now. Hey, thank you for the hearts.
Hey, I just noticed on there that you can give members access to your videos early if you want.
Yeah. You can do that, or, yeah, actually that might be better than what I've been doing, or trying to do. Let them watch it for a day before anybody else gets to see them.
Yeah, that kind of thing is kind of the idea. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Aaron says work was weird, but off today. I'm glad you're off, and I'm sorry that work was weird. Sometimes things are just weird.
Yep. Some days are like that. It seems a lot like you have a whole day like that around here. It decides it's going to be a weird day, and then the whole day is just that way.
Yeah, like the whole town got infected with a weird vibe.
Weird vibe, yeah.
And they're different weird vibes. Some of them are like, we're all in a hurry and we're going to try and run you over. And other days are like, we don't know what's going on and we're going to go 10 miles below the speed limit no matter where we are. And no matter what you're up to. Yep. So, but I'm glad you're off today. So that's good. Always good to be off.
I'm thinking about going and getting a muscle relaxant here while we get going.
Okay. I'll still be here.
For my tennis elbow.
Say hi to the crows if you see them. Our winter crew has arrived.
I don't play tennis. I think I'm going to rename it Magician's Elbow.
Ha!
Wave your wand around too much.
That's right. That's what happened. You better watch out. Stop using your wand so much.
Now that's kind of personal.
I'm getting a magician's elbow sympathy pain.
Oh,
Teresa says, hi, made it again. You look lovely. Hi, Teresa. Thank you. It's always good to make it. Ian's going to go get himself something to help his elbow. He had to come back with the key. So, yeah. How is everybody? Erin says work was weird, but she's off today. How's the weather where you all are? It's got this weird thing. Jen says, hi, everyone. Hi, Jen. Astra says, hi, everyone. Hi, Astra. Jen says, how was your procedure, Siofra? Well, they couldn't do the whole thing, so I have a meeting with a surgeon on Tuesday. And then I'll find out when they're going to do the other part where they're going to knock me out. Apparently, my body is not what they were expecting. Um, things are more normal than they thought, and then some things were not where they thought they should be. So I guess we'll see. But Tuesday morning, I'll find out more, and then after that, we'll see what happens, I guess. That one's probably going to make me kind of miserable because I'm assuming since they're taking a biopsy, it's going to leave me in some pain afterwards. So I'll let everybody know when I'm having it done once they tell me. I'm hoping to wait until after Samhain, so or really fast early on in the week, like right after I see him. So chances are, though, it'll have to be in November, I'm thinking, just because we've got this big family thing happening for Samhain this year, and I don't want to be in a lot of discomfort while I'm trying to prepare for it. That kind of thing, you know. So Robert says, hi all. Hi, Robert. Jen says, I hope it all went well and that you're feeling better. So I explained all that. Robert says, I'm going to watch Addams Family because we are near Halloween. Halloween or Halloween? That is the question. Well, Samhain is the correct answer. Sowen. Samhain is how some people pronounce it. No one, though, who knows anything, unless they've only read it in a book like me in the beginning, pronounces it Sam Hain, which is how it's spelled. Because, you know, Celtic, they put all kinds of letters in their words that you're never even supposed to even look at. Like the word for fairy is she, and it's spelled Sidhe, or Si. So what the heck? Asher says, get better soon. Yeah, well, we'll find out what's going on. Teresa says, November is fast. I thought it would be December. How are you feeling about going under? Well, I've been under before and I survived, so I'm okay with it. I think I'd rather not be there. So I'm fine with it. I was pretty funny though when they gave me the Xanax for the procedure on Monday. Was it Monday? Whenever it was. Um, yeah, it was Monday. I slept for like 12 hours straight after I got home, after I was awake for a while and fell asleep several times. So, and Tuesday, I was still feeling pretty stoned under the influence. Wednesday morning, I was still feeling some of the after effects from that one pill. And it wasn't until like Wednesday afternoon that I finally started to feel normal. So, I think I recovered faster from the actual anesthesia than I did from what they gave me to calm me down and help me to relax. So with the full-on anesthesia, I don't think they need to give me anything prior to it. So we'll see. Robert says, Samhain agreed. Some people say November is the month of the dead, but October sometimes takes its place. Anthony says, we are synchronistically sick, sister. No, I don't want anyone else on the planet to be sick. Robert says, Samhain wise, that is. Today I thought we might talk perhaps a little of moon eclipse, etc., and how to influence us. Okay. I don't really find that eclipses affect me any more than just the regular full moon as far as lunar eclipses are concerned. although I love to watch them when they're visible where I am, because it really gives you a sense of the moon being a three-dimensional ball hanging in space. Just because the full moon is so bright, it kind of blinds itself and you can't see it as well. And also, the very first crescent after new moon is another time because it's so thin of a crescent, if you catch it just right, that you can see the sun coming around the other side just a wee bit. And so it really gives it that ball, three dimensionality. But I mean, basically, it just means that it's lined up with the Earth's shadow. So I really don't understand the huge impact people feel it has on them to have the shadow go across the face of the moon. But maybe that's just me. I mean, certainly some people think it does. Teresa says, I have found that lavender oil is more effective for me than Valium or Xanax. Yeah, I don't think that would have helped me, but thank you. Jen says, I hope it all goes well for you. I'm sending lots of healing vibes for you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Robert says, oh, and of course, phases of the moon is in what way they affect us in our dreams, intellect, etc. And Robert says, frankincense for me is better. Um, well, the phases of the moon, each one of I did a lot of planting by the moon when I lived up north, so I was very aware of what phases the moon were in and how plants actually are affected by the moon. So if you want to grow root plants, then you want to grow them right after the full moon because as the moon goes away, it's like the energy goes down kind of thing. And then above ground plants on a new moon towards a full moon because then it pulls the energy up. And it actually seems to work because I had a couple of times where I didn't have a choice, but I had to plant. And if it was the wrong time or the wrong sign of the moon or something like that, the plant took its sweet time. It's just an interesting thing. But we're much more affected, I think, by the moon than any other of the celestial bodies, really, because of how much it affects all the water on the planet. And without it, of course, we wouldn't have a stable axis and we wouldn't have seasons and so forth. So having a single moon is the reason why we have life, as much of it as we have here on Earth. So it's rather important to the scheme of all things when it comes to that. And of course, people named lunacy after the moon because they noted an effect that the full moon would have on people. And even though there's been a bunch of different scientific studies where they've tried to look at the figures, people still don't think, they still believe that that is the case. There hasn't been able to find real world applications. So, like scientifically speaking, in the numbers of how many incidences take place. But I'm thinking what it is that it affects certain people more than other people. And so they're the ones that are more affected by the energy of the moon. And and it is probably the first thing I connected to as a kid was seeing the moon.
Well, it's probably the planet of the planet, so to speak.
Yeah, being
Well,
the
it's not,
closest
even though
of,
it's not a planet, it's
not
not,
in
yeah,
an astronomical
but
sense.
obviously has the most direct effect on us and
Yeah,
on the earth through the tides and things like that. And, even though the tides in the ocean are big, there's still a similar type of thing within us. Our fluids in our body are affected a little bit by it, things
yep,
like that. So, and then of course everybody's more sensitive or less, like you said.
yeah. And I think at different stages in my development, I would be more or less affected by the different phases of the moon. When I was going through like an awakening that was sort of extreme when I was in Santa Cruz and going through the incest survivors group and spiritual awakening, abilities awakening and so forth and kundalini coming up like crazy, I was pretty sensitive to everything. And during that time, I often had to leave town to get away from people, all their thoughts and so forth and go out into the woods and up until then, the way I dealt with the overwhelming amount of psychic information and influx that I had would be by moving from one place to another. I don't think I spent more than a year or so in any one location in a city, if I was in a city, I had to keep on moving because it would take a while for me to tune into my neighborhood. And then at some point, I would know everything that was going on around me and I'd have to leave because it got too much. So I'm glad that I have control over that now and I don't have to be on constantly. It's a harsh phase for sure. And some people go kind of mad, insane when they go through that, and some may not recover it from it. So it's kind of tricky. My son, when he was really little, he was a little over a year old, the first time he saw the moon in the sky, he started screaming at the top of his lungs. He did not know what that thing was. Sort of reminded me of when our cat saw a fan for the very first time.
Ceiling fan.
The
Freaked out,
ceiling
yeah.
fan. Yeah, we went to a new house and turned on the ceiling fan, and our cat had never seen one. He just started backing up and backing up and backing up and keeping an eye on it. Thought it was going to like eat him or something because he'd never seen one before. So I figure that's probably why my son yelled at the moon. He was terrified.
Well, at that age, I don't think you can distinguish, as far as he knew at that age, probably like right above him as far as he could tell, at that
Yep,
young age. Yeah.
yep. There's a
Like
big,
the big
giant,
giant
bright
thing
thing
above
in the
me. Yeah.
sky. And I really liked when I lived up north in the middle of nowhere going and driving in a full moon where the sky was so clear that the moon was casting shadows everywhere on the mountains and stuff, and it was just fabulous. So there's some absolute gorgeous effects that it can give. And of course, some people think it's following them because it sort of appears to be following you in your head. But yeah, Teresa says, I had a bout of insecurity yesterday, and when I took a look at it, I realized I was feeling fear. I then had an aha moment. Fear is not real and not even an obstacle because it's fake, just a feeling. Yeah. Although, as a feeling, it's there to warn you of danger on a primitive level. So it can be a good early warning system. It depends on what's making you afraid.
Yeah, especially if it's something like me. I have panic attacks if I'm not on medication, and there's no reason for it, and I realize that consciously, and yet, you know, your body still thinks it's really going on, and you end up with PTSD from them. So it can be a nasty thing to deal with, but it's true. It's just, especially in the case of my panic attacks, it's just an illusion because there's nothing going on, especially there.
Right, except your body is
Yeah,
feeling as if it is.
yeah.
Yeah, it can be very tricky. There's no doubt about it. Jen says, I love the moon, but I'm a night owl by nature. And Teresa added, and then I was trying to remember what you said about feelings versus emotions. Yeah, I mean, as it's more of an emotion than a feeling, I think, fear, because it's a very intense kind of thing. It's sort of like rage is more of an emotion, and anger can be more of a feeling, depending on the quality of it. Astor says, my mom was my abuser, got in a car accident with an 18-wheeler. She survived, but has some brain damage and is now permanently disabled and can't do her job. I'm sorry. And brain damage can change a personality very dramatically, and it can be very difficult to remember the person they were before it happened, and sometimes they never get it back. I, since I was hit by lightning, I watched some documentaries on people who got hit by lightning, and there was one woman who was a telephone operator in a building. She had a headset on, and lightning hit the building and went through the wires and went through her ear into her head and then out her foot. So and she got severely affected by it. Her personality completely changed. She went from being outgoing and calm and relaxed and interested in people to being angry, paranoid, a loner, not wanting to have to do with anybody. And so, yeah, it can be pretty interesting. Teresa says, I used to have panic attacks too and had a lot of anxiety. I learned to relax my body and it helped release a lot of that anxiety. Astra says, I feel sad about it, but also conflicted because she was so cruel to me growing up. Well, yeah, you can feel both. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no reason. Feelings can be very complex when it comes to people, especially people that we're raised with or who are supposed to be on our side and that kind of thing. I mean, my granddaughter has her own inner conflicts about her father because he was really horrible to her, and yet she misses him. And, it's like, it's one of those things trying to reconcile those two feelings. You can have them both at the same time and they can both be valid. So Teresa says, I felt that the fear was just a feeling, not an emotion, because it was just hanging in my body and wasn't really connected to thought.
Exactly. And you know what? That's what I've been trying to say is people generally call it a mental illness, but keep telling people it's nothing mental to me because I know exactly what's going on. It doesn't stop knowing that there's nothing to panic about. It doesn't help the panic when you're having a panic attack at all.
Astor says, so I have feelings of animosity and anger at her for getting hurt. She's a workaholic who often drives and falls asleep while driving. Yeah. Anthony says, one of my goals is to get hit by lightning to be marked as a shaman.
Well, that's not one of my goals.
um,
It's a pretty risky way to go about being marked as a shaman.
well, I had it happen to me and I wasn't trying. So if that's what it meant, okay, but it's not something you really, it's a lot. It can do some very strange things. So if you really want to get hit by lightning, be a golfer. Seriously, that's where most people get hit by lightning is on the golf course. Be a caddy. Go out on the golf course. Then lightning will find you because, we make little electrical leaders that come out of our heads and the lightning comes down to whatever spot on earth is closest to the lightning energy. And so the higher the leader is, that's why trees often get hit by lightning because they're taller. But if you're on a golf course, people are the tallest things around. So it's pretty much guaranteed eventually you'll get hit by lightning if you go out golfing in a storm. I don't know if it's a good idea though. Jen says that Robert, yes, it just seems to be my natural biorhythm. I am most alert and my brain works best after 8 p.m. and can stay up all night very easily. I feel better at night as well because it's quiet. Yeah, I think that helps with the psychic stuff. Fewer thought forms floating around, fewer people thinking at you and whatnot. Astor says, I think she may have been driving while tired and may have fallen asleep at the wheel. A few months ago, there was a spirit that was threatening to harm me and threatened to harm my mom with a car accident. Well, that's annoying. Jen says, more peaceful and calm, so I prefer it. It's also cooler, which is a plus when one lives in a tropical place. As far as like at night, that's
Yeah.
true. Asher says, I am estranged from my mom, but still fearful of the threat, but also angry that the spirit would threaten my mom. So I didn't react and thought I don't care to deflect the threat. Well, Robert says, interesting, Jen. I bet you eat less than when you eat when we're during the day. Asher says, so no, I'm wondering if I should have done something or done a protection prayer for my mom. So I'm thinking, what if it was that spirit? She's gotten into car accidents before for falling asleep at the wheel, so I don't want to read too much into it, but you feel awful. Well, I don't think you can be held responsible personally, or you shouldn't hold yourself responsible if that happens. And that would be an obnoxious spirit, so I would just banish the spirit and give them what for. I mean, I scared a friend of mine in high school who was joking around with me because my brother was a smoker and said that he should give him lung cancer to teach him a lesson. And I turned on him and pointed at him and said, "Don't you ever dare do anything like that." And he was like backing up like this with his hands up in the air. He says, "I was joking. I was joking. I was joking. I would never. No, I would never. No, 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 please." So apparently, if I actually get angry, people are frightened. Mostly people don't see me mad, but I can use it if I have to. Jen says that Robert, well, my natural rhythm is to be a night owl, but that doesn't change the fact that the world runs on daytime, so my actual life is one where I fight my natural rhythms to be up.
I always found it difficult myself. I hated working at night. I had, I didn't work like throughout the worst of the night. I worked till like 9 or 10 o'clock or midnight or something like that for a while, and boy, I just couldn't get used to that. It may not seem like much, but just like I never felt right.
Robert says, I understand, Jen. I used to be the same way and eat less when I lived during the night. It's calmer in all things. Jen says, during the day, I basically am just chronically sleep deprived, but every once in a while I stay up late into the night when everything is quiet to recharge my spirits. Robert says, Samhain in 10 days. Anyone feel like drinking blood? Ha ha. No, it's icky. I don't like it. And Jen says, not me. I'm vegan. Gaga says, didn't know about the lightning. Interesting. About it marking you as a shaman? I guess that's only if you survive. There are some stories of people who've become psychic after getting hit by lightning or a blow to the head. There was a pretty famous guy in Scotland who fell off a ladder and hit his head, and after that, he knew a lot of things. Can't remember his name now. It's been too long, but
Hey,
yeah,
Jen, you can just drink some beet juice instead. It's nice and red.
that's true.
I recall hearing of somebody who sacrificed a turnip to do a fake black mass on Halloween, so you always sacrifice a turnip too. There's a
But just don't
yeah.
try to hear the vegetable scream because that'll haunt your dreams. Robert says, oh, okay, thanks for sharing, Jen. Astra says, that spirit was a bully. I don't think it's around me anymore. I did banish it months ago. Good. My mom is permanently disabled now and cannot do her work. She destroyed her children's lives, but I still wish not ill will on her. Well, which is good. I mean, it doesn't help you. It wouldn't help her. So it seems like it would be a relatively pointless endeavor
Yeah.
when it comes to it.
Yeah, some of those things are easier said than done. I had problems with my mother, and I didn't speak to her for years before she died. So, yeah, I get it. But it doesn't, yeah, it doesn't help. That my biggest problem was trying to get rid of all that anger and rage I had towards her, because especially even there after she died, it's like wasn't doing me any good, it's just hurting me. That's the problem with those kind of things,
Turning it inward on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, if you, especially if you don't feel morally right by turning it on the person, which I did not. So yeah, it can be a tough deal.
So Robert says, Siofra, what's your favorite music? Depends on the mood I'm in. I can tell you I don't like most country music or rap, but most other music, there are parts of it that I like a lot. And I'm certainly a rock and roll girl. I've definitely got into a lot of those songs, and my husband's tastes in music and mine are pretty close to being exactly the same.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting. I like things that have depth, tonality, complexity, meaning.
Yeah, a little complexity. A lot of the stuff is too. I find you get tired of it fast if it's not complicated enough. But if it's more complicated, it takes you longer to get into it and decide you like it. Most of the stuff that are immediate likes just like fall away soon.
I
Yeah.
used to meditate to Ocean Breeze by Pablo Cruz. It's a very long song, and it goes through a lot of shifts and changes in emotion, and it's mostly instrumental, and it has classical and rock overtones to it, and slow and fast tones, and that's I would do that generally speaking every day, and play that record and just sit there and ride the different emotions and feelings that the music inspired.
Yeah, it's a really nice song. It's one of two that they do that I like out of their whole repertoire. I don't like anything else they did, but there's that one, and then there's I think it's called like 0 to 50, and or I don't know, something like that. Zero to
So
50 in 60
Jen
seconds.
says, at Astra, big hugs. Abuse sucks. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Teresa says, what are your thoughts about people working with Baphomet? Do you have any thoughts on that? Do people understand what Baphomet is question one.
Yeah.
because there's a lot of misunderstandings about what Baphomet is.
No, I don't know, because I have no idea how people actually work with Baphomet, really. So I understand the symbol, but yeah,
Right.
I mean, if they understand the symbol, then it's fine, in my opinion. Like,
Everyone's got their tastes.
yeah.
Anthony says, was the apple of Eden just a Kundalini awakening story after all? I have no clue. It may not have even been an apple.
Well, well, yeah, it may not have been an apple, but there are definitely people who think it was a Kundalini story and go into trying to dig some of the esoteric aspects out of the Bible about that. Especially they take that and the chapter of Revelations as referring to the chakras, the seven seals as being the seven chakras and that. So
People like to try and
there,
mash things
well,
together.
I don't know. There could be some validity to it because a lot of the texts and things are originally Jewish, and the Jews had the Kabbalah and that. So it's hard to say, but yeah.
Asher says, yeah, I still love my mom. Gaga says, have you ever sacrificed any animals for any magical purposes? Not in this life.
Nope.
Absolutely not. And I know that there are practices that do that, and I don't deny them their practice at all. It's just something I personally can't
Yeah,
do.
don't deny them their validity, but I agree. It's just not my bailiwick either. I have no desire to do that, and I have no desire to do blood magic except for little things that might use a drop of my own blood from my finger or something like that.
Yeah.
For usually for purposes of influencing myself.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand the magical reason for doing it because something that's dying in its moments as it when I accidentally died with the cow, that's how I learned um, what the purpose of animal sacrifice and ritual was, and it opens up the door between the worlds, and it's something that you can ride through and then get to the other side with it. So I consider it for myself a cheat in the sense that I can do it without it. So why would I need to do it with it? But also I have some past life memories that mean I should not do that. So
You know what I think? Personally, I just don't like the idea. I mean, I'll agree with this magical
efficacy.
efficacy under some circumstances, but I was a kid that would not burn ants with a magnifying glass. I thought that was awful as a kid, and so I still feel the same way. I have, I just have such a desire not to harm living things. Um, no, I like animals and things, so yeah, no, I guess I don't. On one level, I have no ethical problem with it, mentally thinking about it, but never do I want to do anything like that or be present at something like that either. I'd rather just avoid it myself.
Well, that was
Just a
one of the
personal
questions I
issue.
had when I
Yeah.
went to the Bimbe because it's a Santeria ritual, and in Santeria, animal sacrifice is something that is done. And so before I agreed to go, I had to make sure that this was one where no animal sacrifices were going to be happening, and it was not that kind of a ceremony. So I got to participate, which was very interesting in and of itself. Uh, Robert says, Astrid, my parents are both in heaven. I miss them a lot.
By the way, once you know enough, there's all kinds of other ways to achieve the same effect rather than sacrificing animals. And it's really, once you know the other methods and better ways of doing it, there's not really much of a need to, except that it's part of certain religions like Santeria. And so it's kind of built into that. So if you're going to do Santeria, that's kind of part of it. But I think outside of that, there's no particular purpose to do it when the same things can be accomplished by what I consider methods that bother me less.
Yes. Like I said, I felt it was a cheat. It can be done with other means. Astra says, I got a tiny zap by lightning and thought I died. It was more like a static zap and everything got bright and blue. I kept asking my friend if I was dead. Then I started seeing these blue electric beings in my place. Ha! Fun times. Robert says, where am I? Here we are. Gaga, he used to have read a book about magic and sacrificing of a chicken is used often. Used to have read a book. Okay, must have had a book. Teresa says, one of my all-time favorite songs is George Benson's This Masquerade. Jen says, I love beats too. Schieffer makes me think of the mandrake screaming in Harry Potter. Yep, that's true. That was pretty terrible. Robert says Harry Potter movies were well made on special effects. Jen says, Schieffer, you are my spirit sister. I will listen to literally anything except country. The most country I can go to is the Eagles. Much prefer rock. Yeah, I like the Eagles okay. They were an early listening band that I listened to a lot.
You know, a funny little fact about the Eagles. I agree with you on that pretty much music wise. I'm not a great big Eagles fan. There are some songs that I like, but a funny thing about them is they wanted to be a hard rock band, and they started out trying to be a hard rock band until their whoever guides them,
Promoter.
their promoter or whatever, guided them to doing the kind of music they do. And of course, obviously, he was right by their huge success. But I think it would have been interesting if they'd have been a heavy metal band. Not heavy metal, but hard rock. But I can't hardly imagine. But that's the direction they were heading before their promoter aimed them the direction that made them successful.
Wonder if they were happy with it though,
I don't know.
emotionally and spiritually. Sandcat says, hi everyone. Hi Sandcat. Welcome. Robert says, Schieffer, can you see the future of a person? Yes, I can, but I choose not to because I don't want to influence their choices or free will. And why do I need to burden myself with all the things that they might do? It's like I have a set of my own personal ethics when it comes to clairvoyance and telepathy. Um, and I believe that people have the right to privacy. And even if they ask me, I'm likely not to tell because it's like you learn better from making your own mistakes anyway, for one thing. And some things can't be avoided. When I was having lots and lots of premonitions, I did find out that there was a difference between having a premonition of something that could be avoided and having one of something that couldn't be avoided, and how careful you have to be. But everything I basically got was to help my own family, not, you know, random people on the internet. Asher says, never thought I'd feel guilty over a bug beam zapped.
Well,
Jen says,
don't get me wrong. If I get invaded by spiders or something, I'm going to get rid of them. I figure if they're invading my space, then they've got to go. That's my agreement with them. They got to stay out of my space, and I'll leave them alone.
Jen says, at you. I feel you. I am going through that with my mom right now, actually. I am processing a lot of stuff with her and will not turn it on her, so I keep away while I'm dealing with the feels. But yeah, it's tough because she's older now.
It's tough. Yeah, it is.
Martina says, hi, folks. Nice to meet you again. Hi, Martina. Welcome back. Robert says, Schieffer, this gift of seeing the future, how did you get it? By practice or you're born that way? Was it the lightning strike you talked about? No, that was long before the lightning strike, and I was born that way. So I had to learn how to stop seeing it. Um, I still get messages from the universe if something is coming that's going to affect my family and so forth like that. It's not like I'm closed off completely. But if it's a safety issue, I find out. Like I knew when COVID was coming, I knew not exactly what it was, but I knew how big it was going to be and how dangerous it was going to turn out to be and how careful I had to be, and was given assurances that I would get through it fine. And and of course, just driving down the road, I'm constantly intuiting, reading minds of people that are driving around me to see what they're up to. And if they're going to do something stupid, I'd like to know about it. So it's not like it's all hands off, but it's more precise. The information I allow myself to see is basically stuff that's going to affect me directly. So I feel I have the right to know that. If someone is suddenly going to pull out in front of my car on the highway when I'm going 55 miles an hour, and I just know that's what's going to happen, and I automatically start slowing down, and they don't get hit, and I don't get hit, and everybody's good. But you can't see everything. I've been rear-ended, I don't know, several times because of someone else's karma. It's not all about that. So knowing it doesn't always stop it from happening, and sometimes knowing it can make you go crazy too. and it makes you feel like you may not have a choice, because the more you think you know what's going to happen, the more energy you put into that storyline, because in reality the future is an open-ended process from the moment you're in, and the choices you make will decide where you end up. So that's where the tarot can come in handy, showing you what your choices and where they're leading, so you can like make adjustments and not go that way if it's going to turn out to be bad. Gaga says, I heard blood was an earth element that helped bring things down out of the ether.
I would say yes to bringing things down out of the ether, but no, not because it's an earth element. The blood is the receptacle of ether in your body, the akaja.
The life force.
So the element of akaja is in the blood, and that's if you want to manifest things down from the akaja, that's why you use blood, because the element of akaja is in it directly. So uh, that's the reason why in Barton's fluid condensers, for example, you put a drop of your own blood or something and you make it yours, because it contains an enormous property for charging up and things like that. It's a great storage container for energy and things like that. So it is powerful for that purpose, but that's because it's Akaja, not earth element related. Though the earth is good for concreting things down and putting them down into a solid form. So if you were trying to manifest something down like that, it would probably be good to combine both, that aspect of blood plus the earth element to really concrete things down solidly. But yeah, the blood is the akaja basically. Not that
Jen
I
says,
recommend doing that, but yeah.
Jen says, hi, it's Sandcat and Martina waving hello. Teresa says, catch the spider in a container and put it outside. Zombie Skullcracker says, hi. Hi, Zombie. Astor says, my brother is dealing with an ex who's harassing and stalking him. He doesn't want to file a restraining order. Can I do a spell to get that fool to leave him alone? Um, yeah, it's an iffy prospect.
But you can certainly try.
If a person's not willing to do the physical stuff that needs to be done, then the magical stuff is less likelihood of working. Because that's just a pretty simple thing that he can do to get, the authorities that are here and file a restraining order so that he can call if something happens.
Yeah, that's true. If he's not willing to do the physical things needed, it's hard to say how much success it would have. Because if you're trying to do something like that for somebody else, he needs to be absolutely certain that he wants something to happen with it. Because if he has doubts on the matters, it would like thwart any energy or
And
help
him
you're
not
trying
being
to
willing to
send.
get a
Yeah.
restraining order indicates that he may
Yeah.
have doubts and he's waffling to start with.
But there are a lot of spells and things for that kind of purpose. For example, in the 5,000 spell book, there's a lot of hoodoo and things like that deal with issues like that.
And then, of course, you need his permission to do it. And if he's not willing to file a restraining order, would he want to have a magical spell? Well, I guess you would find that out. But
Yeah.
Robert says, hi, Zombie. Nice nickname. Fits perfect for Halloween. Zombie says, thanks. Astra corrected her thing, which I corrected when I read it. Yeah, magic is an interesting process in and of itself. And knowing things and um I trained myself to forget what cards my children had when I was teaching them how to do cribbage, as a game, because then I could, without, if I made myself forget what they had in their what I had in my hand, so I could like look at their hand and figure out the best approach for them to take, it made it a lot simpler. And I think that went over into finding out information about people accidentally sometimes that I probably shouldn't have, and making myself forget it or not paying any attention to it. And I think that the comic book, The X-Men, especially the character of um, Jean Grey, the telepath, really gave me some structure within which to think about what is the ethics of being able to read other people's minds without permission, that kind of thing. And so I just came up with a way of dealing with it for myself. Um, but like I said, if it's about me, then I want to know. You can fine tune that. Jen says at Ian, agreed, life is sacred and should be respected, in my humble opinion. Anthony says, I went to a Santeria event last night and had a fun time dancing with someone mounted by a spirit, mounted by an Orisha. Yeah, I was one of those people. I got mounted by Oya.
But
Um,
not last night.
Not last night. No, I wasn't one of those people, but I was one of the people at
Hey, Bembe.
a Santeria bimbe that was ridden by one of the spirits, and I don't recommend it.
Especially not if you're outside the religion.
Oh, I know. Anthony says, that's awesome. Yeah, I really didn't care for it though much. Apparently, gods and goddesses just kind of like me. And that was when I was invited to go to it, and had been doing years of channeling and whatnot up until that point. And I thought to myself, if anyone who has no idea what's going on and has no connection whatsoever to their religious and spiritual practices is likely to get ridden by anything, it would be me. And I was correct. But it was funny because when it was happening, I was in denial. I mean, it started to happen, and I would like zone out, and my body would start making moves that it can't actually make. And then I would hear people talking around me saying things like, I think she's being ridden. And I'm thinking, are they talking about me? And then I sort of panic and then come back up. And I went down, up, down, up, down, up a couple of times. But the people who were there and knew what was going on, they knew what to expect. And when they finished the drumming and song for that particular goddess, they knew what was going to happen to me and they were ready to catch me because I just dropped like a rock.
I think that's pretty unusual for most people, though.
Yes, it
Though
is.
also, I must admit that I seem to have or I should say, the Santeria spirits seem to be friendly with me also, though I'm not in the religion or anything, and I don't really practice that. But I found them, to my surprise, to be fairly friendly. I have a friend who was into it, and I did some things with him just a few times, and they all seemed pretty pleasant and helpful to me at the time, to my surprise. That was all. Just.
Yeah. Asher says, how do I get over a fear of dying? I have PTSD and had a lot of near death experiences, so the fear is wired in my nervous system. I've been shamed a lot by people. I hate being afraid. Are there meditations? Well, having out of body experiences can help because then that gives you sort of a real visceral understanding that you continue after death.
Yeah. Also, I'm gonna point out a specific thing for that. If you were to study the writings of Ramana Maharshi, um, or also listen to Eckhart Tolle, I know I've recommended this to a couple different people, but the reason is because if you attain that state that they attained and that they can tell you how to attain, it is a state that is free from fear. You don't even have fears about what happens to your body and things like that. You reach a state where they're secondary to you because you realize your real nature is not in the body and that. So you lose a whole bunch of your fears and you become basically fearless. It's not necessarily an easy state to attain, and it takes a whole revolution of your consciousness, but it is attainable. And I'm working towards trying to attain that myself at this point, though I'm not there yet. I still have plenty of fears, but I believe it is attainable. Uh, and yeah.
Yeah, when I almost died from influenza infection a number of years ago, I kept crossing over. That's why I say I almost died because I mean, I was seeing stuff. Talk about opening up all of my abilities at the same time. Microcosm, macrocosm, everything was visible. My two guardian angels were there at one point, and I saw them, and I saw the light tunnel, and I thought that was pretty. It was sparkly, and I liked it. So I went up there to get a closer view, and I started going up, and then they brought me back, and then I got distracted, and then I saw them again, and I did that 3 times. And the third time they brought me back, they said, we can't bring you back again, which I understood to mean that if I went into the light again, that would be it. So I had to make a conscious decision to stay here. And every so often, I still feel, for at least a year after that, it was like every day I had to make a conscious decision to be here. It was sort of bizarre because it was so intense, but also helped a lot with the fear. Um, it's like it was very relaxing and calming and pleasant, and I had no fear whatsoever when it was happening. And so, yeah, the fact that I remembered a couple of past lives from the time I was little probably helps too. So we all work on that though. Astra says, that's thanks, Ian. That's helpful. Oh, Jen says, I didn't know that about the Eagles. That would have been interesting to hear them as a hard rock with their abilities to harmonize so well. That would have been interesting in hard rock.
Yeah, I agree. Songs like "Take It Easy" has a lot of good harmony in it. Just
Yeah,
a
very
lot of
good
their stuff. Yes,
blending of
I
voices.
particularly like the voices in that one.
Yeah.
Standing
Did
on the
they
corner.
did they ever actually have any releases of their hard rock stuff?
Not that I've run across, though they have some stuff that approaches hard rock. A couple of songs here and there, but I don't think so. I think they were already oriented the direction they are now by the time of their first album, but I haven't. Now that all the stuff is available online, I might have to go check that out.
And Gaga says, fear led me to have really bad rapture dreams back in the day. I'm sorry, that's understandable. And I'm actually working on a video of deconstructing thought forms that you might find interesting. And Astra's the one who brought it up, so it'll be for all of you out there who want to know. Astra says, sometimes I'm not afraid of dying and I'm looking forward to going to the other side.
Well, I kind of agree with that myself. I'm not afraid of dying per se, but what I am afraid of is
Pain.
pain. It might be painful, and I don't want to go through pain and suffering, but I'm okay. The fact that I'm going to not, all my stuff on the earth is going to be unfinished whenever I die, whatever I had going on. I'm all okay with that at this point in my life.
Yeah. Astra says, I can relate, Gaga. And awesome. Can't wait, Shifra. Yeah, I've been making notes and I actually had to dream all night long about it. So, I mean, that's what gave me the idea. It's like you asked the question last Sunday, and then I had a night of dream vision conversation or whatever about the subject. And I woke up and I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that next. I'm still also working my way through the Vampire Codex. I'm more than halfway through it now. So I'm getting close, and then after that, I'm going to see. I might have to have that one in chunks because it's a 300-page book to start with, and I don't want to go on for 2 hours in one sitting. So, but yeah, I'm working on it. And Carol Lee says, "Yep, pain gets me too." And Astra says, "Exactly, Ian. I don't want pain." Well, I don't blame you. Pain is not fun. Boy, I once had a bad earache and I kept trying to get out of my body. I was trying to astral project, but it was so painful I couldn't get out of my body and I was very annoyed. I'm like, if any time would be a good time, this would be the time. My eardrum's about to explode. Can I please get the hell out of here now? So, body can do what it's doing and I don't have to experience it, but nope, it didn't work. So, yeah, not fun. Bodies are amazing. I thought, how can something be alive and hurt this much? I would think that the pain alone would just, make you go poof, but not. But that's the subject this time of year anyway, is dying. So it's not a surprise that people are talking about it because we're coming up on Samhain. Jen says, Shifra, can you speak a bit about soul families, soul contracts, and soulmates, especially a platonic soulmate? I get very confused by it all and can't find information on the role of a soulmate that is not a romantic partner. Well, I'm sorry that they made these terms to start with, because then we're trying to translate something that is insubstantial into trying to a substantial link. I mean, if you reincarnate with a group, the same group of people over and over again, that would be a soul family in that sense, but that doesn't mean you have to stay with them. Just like the family that you're born into in this life doesn't mean you're going to have good relations with them. Um, Soul contracts would be something sort of like that, where you have something you're trying to accomplish together and you feel unfinished and you want to do it again on the other end, when you come back. And you might make that decision when you're purely spirit and not really understand the significance of it. I met in the beginning of this life, I met a lot of people that I'd known from past lives, and a lot of us were drawn together. And one of the things that I found confusing was that if when I recognized someone, I thought that meant that it had to be a positive thing. Um, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a positive thing. I'm doing this because I'm seeing a large crow flying around the house, and there goes another one. Um, they distract me. Things on wings distract me. Um, so a soulmate is just someone that you have a strong affinity for and have decided to spend some time together. And I don't know if it really has the significance or the meaning that people like to put it to, because you can make new relationships, you can renew old relationships. It's sort of how energy kind of flows, and you cross. I mean, we don't remember, Ian and I, agreeing or making an arrangement to get together in this life, neither one of us. And yet the sequence of events that happen for us to meet at exactly the right time seem to be planned out. But that's, 2020 in the past is easy to see those connections. And at any point, either one of us could have decided no, and that would have been our choice. So I guess the main thing about this is that even if it's true or real or what have you, it doesn't necessarily mean as much as we want it to mean, like any other relationship you might have in this life. And I really think that some of the other terms, like not the soulmate, but
Twin
yeah,
flame.
the twin flame and all that other stuff is like just used for manipulation, to manipulate people into agreeing to do something they might not ever agree to do under normal circumstances, but make them believe that this is like some higher purpose, divine thing that they agreed to from somewhere else, because free will is still
Yeah, and
an
unfortunately, there have been
important
a
part.
couple of cults based on that idea, even. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the Twin Flame University, and then there was the other one that was,
I don't remember what the one I'm
yeah,
thinking of was called, but
well,
yeah.
that was Twin Flame University, and then there was another one that was supposedly higher than just twin flames. They were like twin families or something or other. That was a cult that started in Ashland, has moved on since. So yeah. Um, anyway, so I mean, like any relationship, approach it as consciously as possible. And what you decide to do in this life is what you decide to do in this life. Asher says, I had severe gastritis for 4 months and it made me want to die. It was very painful and depressing. Thank God it got better. I'm so happy for you. That's not fun. My sister found out that she is
Gluten.
gluten intolerant. She thought she was lactose intolerant, and then someone sent her a link about what happens to people who can't absorb gluten properly, and she looked at it and every one of her symptoms was on that list, and so she eliminated gluten and she's way happy compared to what she was before, so that was good. So Zombie says, you notice paranormal is getting more active for the normies? Well, I think it's always been the case, but we only hear about it when they freak out.
Yeah, and now we have so much more communication than we did.
Yeah. I mean, basically, it's like anything else that is uncommon. If you haven't experienced it or seen it yourself, you're likely to have reservations about its validity unless, there's like lots of evidence, like the Eiffel Tower is real, for example. We hopefully don't question its reality, although in this climate, Someone might. I don't know. But a lot of times when people end up moving into a haunted house, it's their very first experience of something paranormal. And they can't believe that it's real, and yet it's happening to them. And then they start looking for people who actually know what they're doing, and beg for help. Because, up until then, they thought it was all a bunch of silly stories until things started flying around the room on their own. So,
And if you
yeah.
help them, they get afraid of you and run away. Don't talk to you anymore.
Well, yeah, that's a whole different issue. Yeah, she can talk to spirits. She can tell them to go away and leave me alone. What's she gonna do to me? I don't know. Stay away. So Jen says, "Wow, Shifa, your near-death experience. You are such an amazing person and have had so many experiences. I love your stories so much, and thank you for your willingness to share with us. Thank you. You're welcome, Jen. I'm just, I mean, I used to think I wasn't very strange. And then I would start thinking about all the things that happened to me. And when I talked about them all in a row, I'd go like, wait a minute, that's a lot of stuff. Weird stuff happening to one person. Carla says, are you concerned with the rise of Christofascism and the restructuring of Christianity to cast out demons? Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's terrifying, and I'm very concerned about it because I see the burning times coming back, and they're just changing the names of those that they've decided the new witches are, and using the same justification and rationalization to justify violence and murder and torture and everything else that goes along with that. So, whenever you dehumanize anything or anyone, you make it more likely, more possible, more feasible, and
Yeah.
more comfortable for people to be violent to other people
Yeah.
because they don't consider them actually people.
That's long been a technique.
It's a very long technique.
Everybody's
They use
else's
it in
gods are
war.
demons. Yeah.
Well, they use it in war.
Yep.
In war, the enemy are not human, so you can kill them and sleep at night. I mean, it's a pretty well-known tactic to do that. But it's a dangerous thing, and we'll see what happens. So Shay says at Jen, I like you asking about platonic soulmates. Platonic friendships are very important and kind of get demoted to not as important. That's true, Shay. And IX says the Eiffel Tower is real, but it was made by aliens. Joking.
Probably the reptilians.
Joking. It was actually a radio tower. So Astra says, why do fairies make creepy faces telepathically? It's kind of funny, but they like jump scaring me sometimes. Um, I don't know. They just think it's funny. We make funny faces and funny noises. It's like, when we're watching our animals hop around and do funny things, or, you're seeing a video of an animal freaking out and running like a cat, jumping up and down sideways like that with a kitten, freaking out. And we think that's hysterical. And they may feel the same way about us, that we're just very funny. Like, look, poke it, see what it does. Woo, look at that. I made a reaction. Carla says, me too, girl. I see it too. IX says, oh, also, hi, Shifra. Found you on TikTok. Really? I'm on TikTok? I did not know I was on TikTok. I better look. And have been following for a bit. You've helped during darker times. You got tips for people affected by the latest Hunter Moon. Depression symptoms popped up bad. Working with the water element is, generally speaking, something that can bring up a lot of potential depression and strong emotions. So I would recommend the cup transformation spell, which uses water as one of the main elements. I have that video up on my channel. And then you can put the bad parts that are bothering you, the negative aspects of emotions and stuff into the cup, and then transform them into the more positive emotions from the water element and take them back into yourself. And it gives you an opportunity to take responsibility for them being your feelings, and then gives you power to be in charge of how you feel and whether you're going to feel a certain way or not, and then gives you techniques in order to change your inner landscape so that you can better be in this place. Or if you need medical attention, get it because it really can help for some brains. It's the way it is. Astor says they're so beautiful and sparkling when I see them physically, but telepathically they show some crazy faces to me. Well, they're probably trying to show you what they actually look like. Maybe. Teresa says, in my opinion, we should all be calling out the crazy Christians and confront them with the facts that they're not good people and definitely not following Christ's teachings. Bullshit that they are good. Yeah, I agree. And I've seen some good memes to that effect online. Zombie says, yes, my dragon sister says the same. Astra says, is there ways to protect yourself from people who try to harm witches? I want to be proud of being a witch, but I don't want to attract abusive people either. Being strong and powerful in yourself and paying attention to your environment and not putting yourself into dangerous situations is the best advice anybody could give you when it comes to it. And not everyone can be trusted. Being able to be who you are is a wonderful thing. It helps other people to be able to sort of get in touch with that side of themselves. Um, but if you're around a group of people that might be threatening, you're not under any obligation to show them your true self. Just remember, is no one is obligated to tell the truth to anyone else unless they decide that they want to. That you don't owe anyone else your truth. You only owe that to yourself and to those you can trust. Um, so be cautious because there's evil people out there.
Yeah, you can also put a mental and astral shell around yourself to reflect back their energy, or imagine yourself in a steel ball that reflects back their energy. And if you can use that in case somebody's harassing you in particular. It won't help with the physical aspect of them harassing you, but if you do it effectively, it'll make it so that it doesn't affect you on emotional, mental level, and then you can deal with it objectively. And uh, I did this once to my boss who was yelling at me, and when he finished yelling at me, I was unfazed, and I just said, "Are you done now?" And he had no idea what to do. He just like that was it. He was dumbfounded that I didn't respond to him yelling at me. So it can be effective for things like that, for helping in that way.
Yeah. Gaga says, I'm having trouble seeing anything paranormal like fairies or ghosts. Well, you just got to put yourself out there and get into the environments where those things are likely to happen and open up your mind and you might see them. Carla says, you're a gem. Thanks for doing these chats. You're welcome. Astor says, I want to be confident that I'm divinely protected because this ain't the old days and witches should not be in a victimized role. And like it is a bad idea to wear a pentagram. I fear that could attract the bad Christians or bad people. Yeah, you might end up with a confrontation with them. I
Yeah.
mean, at this point, almost 75, soon I'll be 75 years old. And, it's like, I don't care if they don't like it. But sometimes if I'm going into a situation, like a lot of times at the doctor's office, I don't wear my pagan jewelry when I go to the doctor's office because I don't want to have to deal with any potential subconscious, unconscious, or stupid reaction the person might have in deciding who I am and then get less medical care because of it. So I fully support your right not to show who you are. And sometimes I just wear them under my shirt. Um, or do it as jewelry that looks like a decorative piece of jewelry. You don't have to have a pentagram. Like, this is tiger eye, and I think yellow agate, and then this is amethyst, and then I've got chalcedonian amethyst bracelet here, and then I've got emerald and green aventurine there. And so you can like charge up jewelry or clothing to give you more sense of protection and power in yourself, and no one else would necessarily be able to tell that you were a witch because of it. Although those who are in the know would be able to notice because they'll see your energy. And I've had a few people do that when I'm going into Walmart. I've had some looks and they've gone like, okay. And I'm going like, all right. And then we go by. We don't have to necessarily have anything to do with each other, but we can tell. So yeah, Do what you have to. So Jen says, thank you so much, Siofra. You have such a gift for explaining things in a clear way. You are a blessing. You too, Ian.
Thank you.
Thank you. Zombie says, keep your vibes positive. Keep Z nasty away.
Yep, positive vibes.
Pastor says, that must have been satisfying, Ian.
It was, but it was shocking to me too because that was the first time I'd ever got the protection that thorough that nothing got through.
Yeah,
So, but it was gratifying.
it was, I'm
Yep,
sure. Yeah, that was just before we met, I think.
that was hard.
Yeah.
So that was after we met.
Oh, was it after we
Yeah,
met? Yeah, because he was working with you when I met you, but I wasn't
yeah,
sure if it
yeah,
was before too.
yeah.
All right. But yes, it is satisfying when it works. It gives you hope for the future. And then you don't, just if it doesn't always work, don't beat yourself over the head because, these things are, yeah,
It
tricky
actually worked well enough that that was the end of it. That
with
actually
him.
just ended it. Yep, that that
Yeah.
that particular one.
With my sister, I discovered that laughter is not always a good response to someone else's anger. My sister was really mad at me one day, my middle sister, and she was hitting me, and I just thought the absurdity of it all just kind of overcame me, and I started laughing, and the more I laughed about it, the madder she got, the more she hit me. So, I got fun out of it, and she kept on hitting me. So I know it didn't stop anything, but I was just like, wow, this is just ridiculous. The heck?
Must have drove her nuts.
It did drive her nuts. And so sometimes when people feel that you're ignoring how they're feeling about something, it really makes them mad, apparently, because they're looking for a reaction, and you're just not satisfying that. Teresa says, Astra, I think you need to make sure you're not dimming your light in order to not ruffle feathers. Also, I'm surprised by the number of people who are witchy when you are out, when you are more out. Astra says, that makes sense. Teresa, I live in a very religious town. A Christian charismatic cult has taken over pretty much every business. Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's right. You're around Mount Shasta. But there's all the New Age people, too. Oh, remember that bookstore we went to in Mount
Oh yeah.
Shasta where the woman decided that she called Crowley Crowley and we corrected her that that's not how his name was pronounced. She says, in my reality, Crowley. And she kept on going on about how evil he was. And we're standing there going like, it's his name. I think it's his reality that matters, not
Well,
yours.
not only that, he didn't decide his name was to be pronounced Crowley. That was how his family pronounced the name. There was his father owned Crowley Ales or something, a beer
Yeah.
company. Like, yeah, like that's how it's pronounced.
Carla says, same here, Astra. And Teresa says, Astra, there are a lot of religious Mennonites where I am, but there are a lot of witchy types too. Astra says, yep, I'm in a town near Mount Shasta.
Bathroom break for me.
Carla says, I'm in a very rural area, and a charismatic church has bought up every business in town. Ugh. I mean, when businesses advertise that they're religious, I avoid them because I don't want to give them my money, and then they get mad, which is funny. It's like you're being mean to us because I said, well, if you're just a plain old business, then I don't have a problem with it, but you're turning this into something by advertising that so your people can go, and I'm not one of your people, so I'm not going. And Carla says, I go out of town to shop. Probably a good idea, considering. And in the small town that we're in, there's a lot of right wing. We're a red county in the state of Oregon, so we have a lot of super religious right wing fanatics in our community. They've always been here. Now they feel more emboldened, but yeah, it's there have been a number of stores that have tried to come in, and most of them only last a short period of time and they get run out of town one way or another. There was one shop that was downtown, and people started throwing rocks through her windows, through her glass plate windows. I mean, we're talking pretty aggressive tactics and so forth. And yeah, so it can be tricky. There's always been at least one here and there, though, that we've had. It's a battle, though, to keep things open. IX says, what are your thoughts on the Western zodiac? Can they be useful tools or are they something too vague to follow and believe in strictly? Afraid it washes away the person when you bind them to their sign. And thank you for the knowledge, by the way, very appreciated. Well, personally, I don't follow astrology for a couple of reasons. One, for the one that you're talking about, well, both of the things. It, unless you are really seriously into astrology and you know what you're doing and you can really read all the different aspects and so forth, obviously there's more than 12 personality types on the planet, or 24 if one's positive and one's negative and that kind of thing. So that kind of stuff is just absurdly stupid. But when it comes to getting seriously into astrology, it can be limiting in the same way that any strict belief system in anything can become limiting because people can start making their choices and decisions based upon what their chart says is a good thing or a bad thing. Um, and then you're messing with your own free will and being able to make choices and decisions. So, if people want to follow it, I don't have a problem with that, but I'm personally not interested in delving into it. I met one person who was a really good astrologer and had some very clear insights. And I think, like with a lot of divination style of methods that there are out there, it was a tool that he could use in order to make connections and insights in the moment when he was talking to you. And it wasn't necessarily the quote unquote science of astrology that did it, just like tarot readings or, um, crystal balls or scrying or any other divination method. It can be a vehicle to allow your unconscious to stop interfering with your ability to see patterns and know what's coming or what's happening or make leaps of intuition. And it gives you like an excuse, an external excuse to say, this is why this is happening, kind of thing. And in reality is a lot more complicated, I think, than that. So whatever works for people is fine with me, but I can't help you as far as it goes, since I'm not into it except peripherally, um, as in planting by the moon and that kind of thing. Carla says, this church prayed a crystal shop out of town. Zombie says, ew. Risa says, I used astrology to help me learn more about myself. Yeah, whatever works for people, like I said, it's fine by me. But I'm always looking for those things that are going to sort of narrow me down to a specific system that's human created and may have no universal actual applications or reality. I'm trying to understand the universe on its own terms instead of on human definition terms of reality. And so it's hard to avoid some of that. Otherwise, we wouldn't have communication and we wouldn't be able to talk. But still, it's sort of an attempt to understand the universe as it is instead of how humans have interpreted the universe. Because overall, if we look at what we've done to ourselves and where we're at, we're not that smart. And I would like to have a better teacher than people, frankly. No more what's going on. But yeah, it's complicated. Carla says, isn't that the truth? Yeah. Well, we do have a new crystal shop in town. I'm hoping that it don't get prayed out.
Yeah, we had a couple in town that got like rocks thrown through windows
I
and
was
things
talking
like
about
that.
that while
Yeah.
you were gone, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yes. Somebody says, hide your black cat. So, this time of year, especially.
Yeah, that sucked.
That is
Actually,
just such a stupid thing
for the
to
first time,
harm cats.
this is the first cat we had that wasn't black. Our cat now is a ginger, but we had multiple black cats previously. Yeah.
Yep. The ginger's because he was like a rescue kind of foster care person that ended up staying
Yeah.
for the rest of his life. So, and he is a pretty funny little ginger. Very talkative. He's got a lot of calls. I think he's got the more calls than almost any cat we've ever had.
Yes.
He's very
Very
expressive.
vocal. Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, black cats. I mean, assigning things like that, anything that was black was potentially up for death during the Inquisition times. whether it was a goat, a dog, or a cat, but especially cats. I don't know why, especially cats, but they just, they were too smart for their own good.
Well, yeah, cats have a lot of personality, and that's probably part of it. I mean,
Well, they only stay with you if they want to, and they're not there to try and please you. They're extremely emotional creatures, and if you have become a part of their group or whatever, they care very much about you,
yeah,
but they're not dependent upon your affection for their self-worth like a dog might be. And they're actually talking about, I saw an article the other day that dogs are evolving into um, needing more human affection in order to get the dopamine levels that they want, because now we want them more for pets and emotional support and less for guard dogs. They were noticing changes in their brain structure and so forth. So I thought that was kind of interesting adaptation, but still, yep. Life is an interesting intricacy. In fact, I don't think that most animal shelters will let you rent, adopt, not rent, adopt a black cat this time of year because of that.
that's really a sad thing. If you think about it, there are so many people. God, cats are so nice. I mean, it's like so many mean people out there. Sorry.
Yeah, it's true. And I'm sorry too. Asha says, I heard the dogs are developing anxiety disorders from being used as emotional support animals. That could be why they're changing, so that they're not so, you know, vulnerable. IX says, oh, are there any daily semi-regular rituals you would recommend to strengthen one's practice? They tend to shy away during October because of obvious reasons. Um, well, the sacred tree meditation with the healing chant is a good daily practice, and it helps to clear your aura, ground you, center you, shield you, and heal you, and make you more self-aware of your own energy. I actually did it myself last night, and I'm going to start doing it a little more regularly again because it's been a while, before going to bed. And it's a really good one for that. But Asher says this is going to be on the same meds as their owners. Ian says meant for the cats, the second part. Yeah, I figured that. So we've got about 8 minutes left here. We'll look into that. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I do have some meditations and practices and things like that are on there. And then there's so many different ways you can enhance your own skill level studying different things, whether it's the symbolisms, the pentagram, the castings of a circle, the being aware of your own thoughts, the meditations, or that kind of thing. And everyone's going to find their own way into the whole point of this is really to become yourself, more of yourself, and
Yeah,
allow yourself to become yourself, evolving that way.
yeah. The idea is you're not your true self because you're all covered up with a bunch of traumas that happened to you in life and things like that. Just stuff that life is like put over you that you mistakenly think is you, and finding your true self is getting beneath all that, finding what's really there, you know, what's beneath all the trauma that life has put on you. Not just trauma, the good things too are also affect your perceptions of yourself and that. And it can lead to some tunnel vision too, which is nice to get out of that if you can get an overview.
And Carla says, Siofra, do you use oracle cards? Nope. Teresa says, I was wondering if you have a copy of the Sacred Tree Meditation that I can download. YouTube won't let me if I'm not a premium member. No, because it's on YouTube. I don't, and I think that is part of the rules. But the only thing that's on it when you do the Sacred Tree Meditation and the healing chant, there is one ad that you can skip in the beginning, and the rest of it is just the video and there's no breaks. So that's what I did. I watched it on YouTube for myself. And I can legally download it, but I can't share it. Otherwise, I'm going to get in trouble. So I'm sorry. But, that's why I did it that way. I have some videos that are like that don't have breaks in them.
Yeah, plus which, do it a few times and you'll learn it and then you can just do it for yourself,
Well, yeah. But I like the fact doing it that way is like I don't have to count the number
Right.
of times that I say the
Right. Oh, I
healing
agree.
chant,
Yeah.
and then I can really get into the visualizations of my own on my own because I used to just lead it, and so making the video and being able to watch the video is the first time I can experience it like other people experience it. So it's kind of
No,
cool,
I agree. It helps you keep your focus and keep your focus maintained, especially
and it
for,
helps our
yeah,
channel to have
yeah,
you watch it on the channel. It
does it too.
supports our stats, I guess, and
Yeah.
might give us a few pennies for the first little bit. So anyway, Zombie says, I love my cats. Carla says, I love my cat too, Zombie. I'm with you. Anthony says, put a dash between the T and the U in the YouTube link and it'll remove ads and put the video on high def for free. Okay, we'll pretend we didn't read that out loud.
Interesting. Interesting, though.
Like I said, it only has one skippable ad in the beginning. There's really no ads on it except for the one you can skip.
This is an interesting little fact, though.
Oakhart said, just got my first crystal ball. I've only ever done black mirror scrying. Super excited about trying to use it. Cool. Teresa says, boy, am I ever supporting your channel with all the videos I'm watching. I know. I'm talking to other people.
Well, we appreciate that.
And Astra says, ha ha, Anthony. So, yeah, we've only got a couple of minutes. So I guess it's about time for us to wind up. We've got 3 minutes left before our hour and a half is up. But I'm glad you got your crystal ball, Oakhart. I recommend using it like in your mind's eye in the beginning, not necessarily trying to look at it, but you can try it both ways and see what happens. I find looking at it with my eyes is more distracting than seeing it in my mind. It depends. But anyway.
Yeah, with a crystal ball, especially, it can be, Barton considers that as an aspect of immobilization of the fire element. So it can be useful. Uh, Crystal ball and crystal is generally connected with the water element in particular, which is an aspect of some aspects of clairvoyance and things like that. So it's well used for the purpose of being in contact with that stillness and that clarity of water, clear water type of things. It's helpful for that if you keep those in mind when you're using it too.
So Teresa says, thank you. I really needed this today. Hi to Ian Tooth. I think warmly of you often as well. Thank you. IX says, once again, thank you both for the knowledge. Glad I hopped on here. Hope the rest of your day is wonderful. Thank you. Gaga says, have you heard of the OBA? Well, the OB, I don't know. And
I don't know much about it. I've heard the term. I think it's basically pretty similar to voodoo aspects.
but we
There's
really
this,
need to go.
yeah, okay. Curly talks about the Obia and the Longa and the, well, he doesn't talk about it in the Book of the Law. Anyway, yes. Sorry.
Okay, guys, I gotta go.
Bye, all.
Talk to you
Blessed be.
soon.
Thank you for being great.
Bye.